Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.link. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. Check us out. It won't cost you anything. And today is our usual Friday reaction stream. Every Friday at about 6:30 p.m. Italy time, I react to stuff you've been sending me throughout the week. If you'd like me to react to something next week, please send it to deltacx.link/reaction and make sure it's something you want me to react to. The streams can sometimes run a little bit long if people send me a lot of stuff, but there you go. Don't forget, you can also subscribe here on YouTube. The channel is ad-free, and we go live about 4 times a week. You can also join our Slack universe. Also costs nothing, no membership fees, and that is deltacx.link/join Slack. Now, I have to apologize. I'm not on my usual screen today, and for some reason, the replacement screen, the temporary screen I'm using, is really bouncy. So I apologize if it looks like I am bouncing. I promise I'm not. I'm sitting on this desk, sitting on this chair, but if my knee bumps into the desk, the whole thing goes. So to be fixed tomorrow. So that being said, let's go over to our board of stuff that's been queued up from things that you've sent me. So let's try this button. And hopefully, yeah, there we go. So we've got the chat room, we've got the optional tip jar where you can do your super chats and tips. And here we have my private browser, and we're going to take a look at some stuff. This is from Mind the Product. It looks like it might be a blog post. I don't follow them, so hello. And it says, privacy by design, flipping the script on privacy. Makes me wonder what the script is. But they're talking about how at Google's developer conference, they're showcased intent to give users the ability to increase their privacy. Congratulations on signaling intent to give people more privacy. And the articles say consumers want privacy. I think most people do. And then they said politicians and legislators want to promote privacy. I don't believe that. I believed if all politicians and legislators wanted that, we would have that. But they don't want that, and that's why we don't have that. And really what the question was that came in with this was, whose responsibility is privacy? And of course, that's just my opinion on that. But I would say that privacy is really a shared function. I would say it is part of your legal team. It is part of your security team. It is part of your engineering. It is UX. It is it is CX. It is product management or product ownership. Business analysts. I think everybody has a hand in security and privacy in a sense. Ultimately, some teams are more responsible for it, like the engineers, because they put it into place. And if it's hackable or whatever, it was probably more their fault than mine. But I think that this is something that we can all share, and this is reflected in some of the things that I recommend people do. I think in my book we had the bad actor workshop, which also shows up, I think, in one of my Medium articles, or did I do it here on the show? Zoom and you need to run a bad actor workshop. And we also showed it in episode, was it 115 or 116, where I showed my risk mitigation workshop. It might have been 115. Drink to that. I think the risk mitigation workshop can help more people be aware of what potential privacy or security issues there could be, and then we usually need legal and other people to work on that. So I really do think it's a collaborative effort with some people owning it a little bit more. Thank you for sending that in. Next, we have an article on the Intercom website. So it's a blog post from the company Intercom, from the Senior Vice President of Product. I don't know him. He doesn't look familiar to me, so no personal judgment here. But it says, product judgment, how some people can repeatedly create product successes. Now, of course, my initial impression upon reading that is, that seems a little bit ego-based because it takes a lot more than a product manager to create a product success, but okay, I'll play along. So basically, I skimmed this earlier, and basically this person says that there's such a thing as product judgment, which he also calls product intuition, product instinct, or product taste. And it's the idea that you can use your own judgment to accurately predict what your customers need, want, and value, and design and ship the right solution for them. So, of course, immediately I'm thinking, this sounds a little bit like guessing, and it also sounds like the product managers. If this is product managers, now, of course, he hasn't said, I'm thinking this might be product managers, or is he thinking product as in product designers, those often production designers? So I guess I'm not totally sure who he means here. And that's where we're falling apart a little bit. Does he say product managers? All great product managers and all great designers have strong product judgment. Okay, so that's one of those types of phrases that, what's the word I'm looking for? Like approves itself. If you're great at this, you probably have great product judgment. And so ultimately, what this person says is product judgment is obtained through direct experiences with customers. Okay, I think we can all get behind this. This is certainly feeling like a five dogs adventure here. Yes, we want there to be research, and we want there to be observations and interviews so that we truly know the people who will use whatever this is or are using it now. But what the person who sent it in pointed out to me, because I might not have skimmed down this far, is this section. You can't obtain product judgment through indirect means. So this person says you cannot have a research team watching and talking to customers, playing back video clips. It's not enough. That basically you have to do it. Now, I think that gets a little bit problematic, because if we were to use the same logic, hi, Banarsi, sorry, I'm using a different screen and everything looks smaller to me. Hi. So I think the problem here is, hypothetically, this could be taken to say that, we don't need researchers. We don't want specialized researchers because they're just going to be too far apart from the people using their research, and sharing that knowledge isn't good enough. I think there's also a slippery slope there where eventually someone will say, well, gee, why should product managers then have to give stuff to designers? It should just be primary right there. Product managers can research with customers and then do the design. We shouldn't have people reading reports and doing this separately. Bring it together. So I do believe there's an opportunity for slippery slope here, and I do worry that that this kind of undoes the entire purpose of specialized researchers. I don't want to suggest anything that sounds like we don't need specialized research. And of course, after 30 or 40 years of the UX industry working mostly well, I don't want to make it sound like if we get information from researchers, this is just not good enough. It's not enough. You have to have been there. I think that's tough, because everybody who was there was taken off other work they were doing. So if your product managers have to be doing the research, then they weren't doing the product management that day, they were the researchers. So this sounds like another case for let's democratize research. But if you've been hanging out on this channel, you know that I'm strongly against that, and I went deeply into that both in episode 115 and in a previous episode, I want to say 51 or 52, but I don't remember, but it was about collaboration and democratization and how to tell the difference between the two. So all in all, I would have to say this guy started interestingly, and in the middle it's weak, and I can't even keep going because it just starts to sound a little bit ego-y to me. It's just us. So I'm gonna have to give you 2 dogs for that out of 5. Sorry about that, but I hope you'll reconsider your position and not put researchers out of business, because hey, research and development. This was a Medium post from the UX Collective, who, as far as I can tell, will publish anything about anything. And this says, accessible design benefits everyone. This is true. What is accessible design and why is it important? Universal design considers age, gender, stature, culture, and more, and it's confused with accessible design, meeting the needs of people with disabilities or neurodiverse people. Okay, but what's your point? Accessibility is not a barrier to design. We know this. How to design with... So, I'm not too sure what I'm reacting to here. I think the person who sent it in thought that maybe universal design and accessible design were being separated here. But I appreciate someone writing an article about accessibility, but I think if you're going to read an article about accessibility, please follow Sherry Byrne-Haber, who's been a guest on the show. She is just my favorite person to hear write or talk about anything about accessibility. So it's hard to dislike this article, but I'm not too sure who it's for. Who are we trying to sell designing for accessibility to? Because most of us know that we're supposed to do this. So is this for our stakeholders who are still against it? So I can't quite tell who this is for, but I'll give it 4 dogs because I'm happy to see an article promoting designing for accessibility. And I didn't read the whole thing, but I can't find anything here that seems awful. Oh, except for empathy. Yeah, design can't start with empathy. You can't, okay, sorry, you've just gone down in dogs. You have to stop saying empathy, y'all. You just do, because you don't truly empathize with someone with a disability if you don't have that disability. And even if you do, you might not have the same experiences. So we have to stop having the ego to think that just because we research people or get to know them a little bit, that we feel what they feel, which is the definition of empathy. So be careful of throwing around all your empathy, y'all. Most of your empathy is fake. All right, so moving on. Okay, so this was a LinkedIn post from Xander Whitehurst, who has a UI UX bootcamp called Memorizely, which we've burned to the ground previously, which Xander didn't like, and he blocked me on LinkedIn. But luckily, in this private browser, we can see his wonderful posts. And this says, I'm mega proud to be launching Memorizely Accessible Design Bootcamp. Why isn't accessibility in the boot camp already? Why did we leave that out? I don't get it. And I'm not going to click on this. But obviously, we should be teaching accessibility and how to incorporate that not just in our design, but in our research and testing as well. So I'm not too sure why he's acting like this is some great, amazing feat. To me, this should be the standard, and this should be the standard that should be followed. And you don't have to congratulate yourself for following the standard or doing the right thing. So not totally sure here. He and I are clearly not fans of each other, so I'll give him 2 dogs. Congratulations on finally catching on to the importance of accessibility, but put it in your normal boot camp. Don't make it a separate program. But then again, nobody should take your boot camp anyway. I don't recommend Memorizely, and I technically don't recommend any boot camps as of recording this in September 2021. Catch me next year. Okay, now obviously I am not going to go through 59 questions for mindful UX design, but when I started skimming this this article earlier, it says, do you want your product to fail people? How do you make sure it's not failing people? And of course, the term here is mindful. So I assume that maybe we're meditating at the end. But what I found when I skimmed this is it seemed to be more of a tool of questions to ask yourself if you might be getting into a situation that compromises your ethics or morals. And in that sense, I think that's an interesting set of questions to ask yourself. However, I would say, in the name of self-awareness, if you're thinking you need to ask yourself a set of questions about whether or not you've compromised your ethics or morals, you probably have. So there's that. So examples of questions would be, oh, hi, Nick, Ohm page optimization? What's that? Maybe, are you behind in time? I don't know what you're referring to. What's the worst scenario that could happen because of this product? That's a match to my bad actor workshop where you brainstorm that. Are you okay with your loved ones knowing you worked on this? Again, hypothetically, if you were doing something unethical or immoral, you would have a crisis of conscience when you went to answer that question. In what ways could this be a contradiction with your values? Would this be acceptable if it was an interaction between humans? So I didn't go through the whole article, but I thought it was an interesting approach. You can look up this article. It's on this2shallgrow.com. Oh, I see. Nick says Om because it's Om for mindfulness. Thank you. That's a good pun. Thank you. Thanks for dropping by. Good to see you. How's your Friday? So, actually, I think while I think that by the time you're asking these questions, you're probably already knowing what the answer is, I think at least from my initial skimming of this article, I think it's interesting. And I think it's worth people taking a look at and thinking about these things, both when interviewing for a job or starting a job or struggling with something on a project. So I'm going to give it 4 dogs out of 5. I would give it 1 more, but I didn't read the whole thing, so I don't know if it gets ugly at the end. So I'm going to assume it's pretty good. Happy Friday. All right, we've got a LinkedIn post here from a guy I don't know. It says software engineer at Google. And it's funny, software engineer can now be like 20 different jobs. Be specific, y'all. And he says the only 2 requirements for becoming a software engineer: access to Google, the ability to deal with the crippling anxiety that comes with having 73 Chrome tabs open simultaneously. Well, it certainly wins for clickbait. He's got over 4,000 reactions and 112 comments. So congratulations on the engagement. Other than that, I'm not too sure what to do after reading this other than go, ha ha ha. So it's clickbait. And I guess it's some sort of developer joke, and I don't know what to do with that. So I'm just not going to give it any dogs because I kind of don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Moving on. This is an article from a year ago that says how I got hired as a UI UX designer without experience. Now, of course, we just did this week on the show. Episode 125 talks about articles and videos like this. All of the how I got my first UI UX UI product designer job without experience or qualifications. So I'm not holding out much hope for this one. But let's see. This person has 5 tips for you. Number 1, self-branding. Okay, we've talked about in the past that personal brand can be good. I've also talked about how personal brand can work against you, so be careful. Next, his advice is do daily UI. I certainly disagree. I find that daily UI and some of these other types of things seem like they're good practice, but who's checking your work? How do you know you're doing good daily UI? How do you know you're doing accessible daily UI? Are you doing universal design like we just talked about? So you can do daily UI, but is it good? And you're not going to know that probably without a mentor or coach. So remember, whatever practice you're doing, keep getting that mentoring and coaching. Same reason you got piano lessons, tennis lessons, and you go to yoga class. So I don't totally agree here. And also, I think if you want to get better at UX, the type of daily UI thing where you're just making interfaces pretty or pneumorphic or fuzzy or whatever isn't really a showcase of UX process. It's just visual design adventures. Start a side project. You certainly can, but not without mentoring and coaching, because again, if you guess your way through a side project, you're not going to level up. You're not going to improve your skills. This is where mentoring and coaching make the difference, and it'll make the difference in your portfolio. I can tell the difference between somebody who guessed their way through a project and got some or a lot of it wrong, and someone who did a project well by themselves or because they got some coaching. Study UX. Well, we all still do. You never stop learning. Yes, keep studying UX, please. And not just these things on the building block level. Remember, these are all building blocks. Journey maps, personas, User flows, wireframes, prototypes, Figma, Axure, these are building blocks. You want to make sure you're learning the science and technique and eventually the strategy, but the science and technique that goes into these things, not just more building blocks or UX by template. UX is not best done by template, so be careful. And try your luck on everything. I guess this has to do with applying for jobs or trying to networking, and I guess you can. So all in all, I would have to say I don't necessarily agree with this person, but we also have to remember that he started with the premise of a UI UX design job. And again, that's going to be more heavily visual design, possibly without any UX process. It could just be visual design and some Figma wireframes or prototypes. So based on what this person is suggesting, that you could get this UI job after doing these things, it might be true. But of course, here on this channel, we don't really deal in UI UX. We deal in CX and UX, and we don't really deal in the world of visual designers, you know, making Figma wireframes or prototypes. We deal in full UX processes with these things done correctly. So this is kind of not my ballpark. Let's move on. This was a LinkedIn post from about 2 days ago. It's from a person I do not know, and it looks like his name is Mauricio Jordan, and it looks like he's got a lot of likes and comments on this. And it says, 2 days ago, I was crying in the park at night because my job search was going very poorly. I know. Maybe this is too real for LinkedIn. Oh, I don't think so. That looks like most of my feed, actually. But I'm trying to be as authentic as possible. You know, one funny thing for me is authenticity shouldn't require trying. I always feel like if you're trying to be authentic, there's something that's not authentic there. But Mauricio, we still get you. So the next day I landed a part-time product design internship at a design agency in Chicago, focusing on accessibility and inclusive design, which is so exciting. And I got contacted by a recruiter. This is the momentum I needed. If you're a boot camp graduate like me on the job hunt, don't give up, cry in the park, get frustrated, feel all the feelings, but don't let them stop you. It'll happen. So good luck to Mauricio, whoever he is. I certainly support him and his journey. And, you know, I support anything that you do that's legal and appropriate to get your first job. And if not getting a job is frustrating and painful for you and it makes you cry, that's totally fine. And if that crying happens in public, that's your business. I'm not going to tell you not to cry in public or not to cry in private. If that's how you feel, go for it. I'm not sure I've necessarily posted to LinkedIn, but that's me. And that goes back to the previous page about personal brand. I've decided that my personal brand is to not really talk about anything that's like a personal negative thing for me. I've got enough negative UX and CX and bootcamp things to tell you about. I don't have to tell you about when I've been crying. But that's my choice. So, you know, if that matches his personal brand, then that's fantastic, and that's what he should do. So I will give him 4 dogs because I don't know anything about him, but I wish him well. All right, moving on. Michael I don't know, Malowitz. You can become a great UX designer, and it was a link to a YouTube video. And of course, it's got 9 reactions here and 1 comment. That's bad. That means this died in the LinkedIn algorithm. This guy did not do well at all. Now, I did go and attempt to watch this YouTube video, which is called Anyone Can Be a UX Designer. So you can be pretty sure what I'm going to think of something like that. But when I watched the video, it was unfortunately quite distressing. I think it's always unfortunate when people want to belittle experienced people and claim gatekeeping and claim all these things and claim there's a lot of claims. And I think we have to ask ourselves, you know, who is this guy? We build design systems. We're a UX and design agency. Co-founder, creative director, designer. Okay, so looks like a guy who recently decided he was a UX guy, or at some point decided he was a UX guy. Don't know him, but I would say it is a very troubling video, and but I think it works really well as clickbait, because obviously right now, if you want followers, if you want likes, if you want comments, you have to give the message anyone can be a UX designer. And Oz says sometimes it's claims and sometimes it's flat out clickbait for traffic and attention. This was a little bit of both. I watched it a few days ago. I actually couldn't make it to the end of an 8-minute video because it was, let's just say, extremely unfortunate. It was really quite distressing. I know you're feeling curious and you might want to watch it. Remember, if you do watch it, please don't press the thumbs down. I've recently learned that YouTube, like any social media, the thumbs down is not what you think. The thumbs down shows you cared enough to press something on this, and then YouTube thinks, cool, engagement. So the best thing you can do is press nothing and not comment. But I've seen a couple of this guy's videos, and I just think that he's got something to sell, and he's going for the easy likes and the easy comments. And again, I'm sure my channel would have a squillion followers if I gave the same messages, but I'm telling you, getting into UX is hard. It takes work, it takes craft, it takes critical thinking and intelligence, it takes certain personality types. Even people who want to get into it might find that they're not a good fit. So I am not going to give you the false message or the false hope of anyone can be a UX designer, and stop listening to all the people who are gatekeepers and trying to block you from your dream. I think this is just drama. And, you make your own bed. So good luck to this guy. -5 dogs for him, but that's not really a score here, so I'll have to give him 1. But so far, I haven't seen a video or post from this guy that I liked, and I think he is hurting the industry he claims to work in. So I think it's unfortunate to do that for the likes and the clicks. And by the way, when I look at numbers, I always think it's interesting, the people who have 21,000 YouTube followers and 15,000 YouTube followers always seem to have very few followers on LinkedIn. And I have the opposite. I have like 16,000 followers on LinkedIn and 2,500 on YouTube. And I think the main reason for that is I didn't buy followers on YouTube or LinkedIn, actually. Okay, this is a fun Instagram account that's worth following. I do follow it. This was sent in, and it's called Shit User Story, as in really bad user stories. And they're all making fun of bad user stories, but they're making fun of things that obviously go on at our crappy UX jobs. And so this one says, as a persona, I want to be a man or woman aged between 21 and 64 who enjoys cookery, running, purchasing enterprise tier SaaS products, and reading, so that all design decisions appear empathetic to me. Well, of course, this is a giant winner. 5 dogs all around. 10 dogs if I could. Oz says, I haven't paid for followers either. I know you haven't, Oz, but you have a much broader topic than I do. Everybody loves Excel, and everybody wants to learn Excel, and they should learn it from you. I have a much narrower topic. I'm just saying the people in my industry who magically have all these followers and aren't Don Norman. So yes, 5 dogs, if not more, for Shit User Story. They're a fun follow on Instagram. Okay, this one says, another UX Collective article. This one says, FBI profiling techniques for product managers. And it says, here's the way we profile criminals. We look at their motivations, their methods and manners, their short-term behavior and their long-term behavior. And I think the point of this article is like, ooh, product and UX could do this type of thing. What was in place before it happened? What triggered this person? Was it planned or controlled? And is there a behavior change? And And then we could build, and wow, we could build better personas if only we took a look at people's actual tasks and even their motivations before the actual action. And my thought, well, and maybe the person who sent this to me is thinking the same thing. We covered this in the micro lessons playlist under task analysis personas. And really a lot of task analysis, that the way that we teach it, reminds you that you may think that your customer's experience is your e-commerce website. But in a sense, the task or workflow that includes being on your e-commerce website started with a trigger where somebody wanted to buy something, shop for something, compare something, replace something that broke, buy another thing. There's a trigger, and there's things or even decisions that happen before they're on your site, then they're on your site, and then whether or not they bought, there's things that happen afterwards. And the more that we can look at that holistically, the more we will have meaningful, actionable, and helpful personas and architect and design better for real users. So do I think this has to be associated with the FBI? I don't. I think this makes the article seem exciting, but so I think it's okay in that sense. I'll give it 3 dogs. But I think that if you're doing task analysis and task analysis personas, you're probably already thinking of a lot of these things. Plus, I don't exactly want our users to be treated as criminals or thought of as criminals even accidentally. Okay, next we have a few tweets. This was a good one. This gets 5 dogs all around, maybe 10. And this, of course, I don't know why it was sent to me, but it's certainly true. It was Bob won't be working with us anymore. And then, of course, it's Bob's responsibilities and Bob's salary. And the people left over get Bob's responsibilities, but not Bob's salary. The boss keeps that for themselves. And I'm not too sure what I can react to here because this just seems to be true. All right. Next, we got a thing here. It says, this guy writes, I don't know, Chris Thomas, I don't know if I know him. Well, I'm not on Twitter, so if I do know him, it'd be LinkedIn. It looks like I can get a job in UX, guaranteed, after I do a design boot camp. Not all boot camps are made equal, but this is why UX boot camps get hated on. This is fuckery. And he has a screenshot where somebody, I guess, wrote to him through LinkedIn, and it said, get a job in UI UX guaranteed. Our team came across your profile, and we would believe you'd be a great fit for our boot camp. And it's from Springboard, because our graduates see an average salary increase of $26,000. Really? When juniors are paid 30 to 45? So are these people making negative amounts of money? Oh, dogs are still overlaid. Sorry, everybody. You'll build a portfolio, you'll collaborate with a client, and unlimited mentorship calls. Now, Nick, you're still here. You're a Springboard mentor. What do you want to say to this? Because obviously, you know I'm not a fan of any of these boot camps, and so far, the only good mentor I've found is Nick and maybe Julia DeBari. So he says, I get people are trying to make money, but you cannot guarantee someone a job. Not cool at all. If I were new or looking for a change, this might be deceptive depending upon how desperate I was. This just irks me. Yeah, and of course, let me know how your transition into UXT goes. And evidently, I think this guy is already in it. Yes, he's a design lead. So he's a design lead, and Springboard is reaching out to him to come take a UI UX course. Reminds me of the time in the mid-90s when I got called by a local school asking if I'd like to take their Photoshop course. And I said, do you want me to take it or teach it? Because by then I'd been using Photoshop for years. And they said, no, take it. And I said, well, that doesn't make sense. I teach it. So, yeah, I agree that this is fuckery. And y'all know I'm still against all of the boot camps. And yes to this. So 5 dogs for Chris. So there you go. Next tweet. We've got a few more things coming up. Lara. I don't know her. Hi, Lara. What should we know about Lara? Senior Product Design Manager at Twitter. Oh my. Okay. Nick says, this is likely an auto reply. I got the same email after visiting the site. Oh, yikes. Oh, no. So wait a minute. Their auto reply email says, "We came across your profile and we believe you'd be a great fit." And you got that too, Nick? That doesn't seem like the right auto reply. And it sounds like and especially if it's an auto reply and it's automated, then it's a lie. The team didn't come across your profile and they wouldn't know if you'd be a great fit. That stinks. Darren says, Career Foundry tried to get me to sign up for UX classes to my face. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, back to Lara. It's insane that an industry that needs more professionals desperately is so hard to break into. The design industry is broken. And then, of course, everyone says yes. So I think that the problem with this is we should probably take a moment to think about how we define the word professional. And I think if we take a look at how employers have moved the goalposts the last few years, employers used to welcome entry-level UX people with no experience because they needed more professionals desperately. And so anybody could get a UX job. You were barely assessed or checked or vetted, and everybody got a job. But then the tables have turned and the balance has shifted. Now there are way more people trying to break into UX than there are jobs. That means the employers move the goalposts. Now the employers are saying, well, there's a lot of people out there who are not really job ready because they went to a program or did some self-study and they're really not ready. So we'll just ask for people who have 1 or more years of experience. Now, I understand that because many companies put people on UX projects alone. They don't want to put a newbie on a project alone. People are going to need coaching and mentoring, and most companies aren't set up for that. I get it. I have empathy for that. But at the same time, we do still have to find a way to create apprenticeships and internships that allow people to have that bridge between whatever program they did or self-study and their first job. However, I'm not sure that I agree with her logic, because if the industry needs more professionals, it could still be hard to break into. I mean, we always need more doctors. There's like 2 doctors where I live, and they're both stinky. I wish I had a better doctor. Being a doctor is an industry that needs more professionals, and it's hard to break into too. You can't do the 12-week boot camp and become a doctor. So I don't think that just because there are many people who are trying to break into an industry means that it should necessarily be easy for them. I often reference plumbing school and hairdressing school. These are schools that can take a year or more, and then they expect people to apprentice for very low pay until they're ready to be on their own. So again, I understand the sentiment of it. I do think this is a little clickbaity, and I think we just have to be careful, because while the design industry is broken, I find it tends to be more broken because it's allowing people into our jobs that do not have good skill. And if there's one thing that's going to devalue UX fast, it's filling UX jobs with people who are not job ready. So I'm more concerned about the not job ready people who were not assessed well or at all, and are now in our jobs and are basically teaching employers, you can guess it, UX, and maybe UX isn't that important. Someone on LinkedIn is saying the feed is glitching. YouTube fans, is the feed glitching on YouTube? I can't see it. I'm just sitting at my desk, so I don't know what the feed looks like. I don't have it coming back at me. If the feed is bad, maybe come on over to YouTube, deltacx. It's ad-free. We'd love to have you. Next. This is from Dovetail's blog. I've recently enjoyed using Dovetail. Not sponsored. I paid them. And so here's Dovetail. Researching the right thing versus researching the thing right. Nick says YouTube is crystal clear. LinkedIn is usually glitchy. Yeah, I don't know. I found that LinkedIn was usually lagging and funky. Now, first of all, the first thing I notice about this, and I know my fellow critical thinkers will notice this as well, is why is this a versus? Why can't we research the right things and research things well and correctly. So I don't understand why people tend to write articles that create false choices or invented drama, like, hey, you know, you're either doing this or this. Now, let's see what this person says. Stephanie says, all good in YouTube, and I caught up at 2x speed. Now it's strange to hear you at 1x speed. Okay, I can talk at 2x speed if you'd like. So they're claiming that you can think of the double diamond model as researching the right thing, researching the thing right, and designing the right thing, and designing the thing right. I'm not into double diamond. I'm more into user-centered design, and double diamond is just a derivative of user-centered design. And I skimmed through this a little bit, but it was a little bit long and it didn't hold my interest. So I have to admit, I kind of don't know what this article says. It kind of lost me. Things we need to know, sharing and mapping, things we need to know, things we need to know. Have a workshop on things we need to know. That's my impression here, is that you should have a workshop on things you need to know. I'm not sure that needs to be a workshop. It could be a short meeting. They say 10 minutes. I think a 10-minute meeting would be just about the right amount of time. Yeah, I don't know. I guess this doesn't seem bad. Again, I'm not into double diamond myself, but if this helps anybody care about the users and be more customer centric and invest more in research, both in researching with the right people and researching correctly and not skimping on it, then sure, you know, use this phrase, whatever. I'll give it 4 dogs. Ekta says, in Larry's words, creating the best solution for the wrong problem, researching the wrong thing right. Yeah, it does feel a little bit Larry variation to me, but again, if it gets people investing in research, I'll take it. Next, and we have something after this, is Greg Bernstein, who is it Bernstein or Bernstein? I really don't know him. I know he's written a book only because the next thing we have is part from his book. And it looks like he's reacting to somebody else's tweet that says, good founders ask for 15 minutes. Great founders send availabilities. Like, ooh, here's when I'm available to meet. Best founders don't have time to meet. Okay, what do I do about that? Another non-actionable clickbait adventure. And Greg says, good musicians practice. Great musicians perform. Best musicians don't bother with the concept of sound. Good chefs learn from the classics. Great chefs improvise. Best chefs don't have time to worry about food. Remember, not all advice is worth listening to or sharing. I agree. I think Greg's onto something here, and I appreciate his snarkiness. So I'll give him 5 dogs for that tweet, because when I see clickbait and weird stuff, it's like best founders don't have time to meet. So what? They're not going to pay it forward? Whatever. Now, somebody sent me a passage from Greg's book, and so I've got it in my thing here. This is where I keep all the things you send in. And these are all of the UX programs that you've sent in that we'll do as their own show later on. So when you send me programs, they go on this list. And when you send me other stuff, it goes on this list. Okay, so here is an entire excerpt that somebody typed out from Greg's book. Thank you so much. I'm probably going to read half of it because it is quite long and we're running low on time. But it says, Greg's got a book called Research Practice, Perspectives from UX Researchers in a Changing Field. How's it changing? But it sounds like Greg is suggesting democratizing research. I don't know, Greg. Well, let's go back a few pages here. Hold on. Good researchers research. Great researchers research. Best researchers don't democratize research. Yeah, it's not very good. I need to go to sleep. Okay, so let's see. Let's see if we can find where this fell apart. because it was quite long, but I'll just read the whole thing. We have a little bit of time. We batch certain things together to come up with the roles that we have today, like the researcher or the design ops person. But some of the pieces in this hypothetical universe are things that we always do. For example, there's a project manager for every single project we work on. But you don't go to a project manager and ask them to prioritize every single thing you're tasked with. You do that by yourself because you have simple project management skills. This doesn't mean we're able to manage a 4,000-person multinational construction project as well as a project manager does. I feel the same way with research. I don't think it's fair to say anyone can do research, so we don't need researchers. It's like project management or math or simple physics. There are certain things that you need to know to be able to function at a good enough level, and those are all learnable things. The other thing about research is that it is human-centric, experience-based learning. It's not like physics, where you have to master a certain level of mathematics first to be able to understand this method, or even project management, where you need a really good understanding of what a dependency is. Those are abstract things that you have to sit down and study, whereas for research, you need to know a few things about sociology and psychology, and the only way to expand your knowledge is not to get a master's degree, but rather to go out to the field and exercise those skills with the right people. You can't just read books. You have to actually go into the field and do something, and that's why I think research is a skill that everyone should be able to learn and bring back to their organization. Another reason I think everyone should be a researcher is very similar to how I feel about project management. One property of an efficient team is that they know how to manage their time. They know how to prioritize things properly. They know what to work on. If everyone is able to do a basic level of project management on their own, everyone gets better at project management. Similarly, if everyone can do a little bit of research correctly for their own purposes, then everyone understands it better. Stephanie wrote, gosh, we need a bingo grid for those cases. Yeah, I think I find this to be 100% garbage. This is one of those things that I think if you're not a critical thinker, this sounds logical. And I think if you are a critical thinker or a little bit of a detective, I think as I read that out loud, you start maybe wincing or flinching or looking like the Once in a Lifetime Talking Heads video, like, what? You have almost an involuntary reaction to what he's saying because you know there's something garbagey about it. So first of all, I'm going to go with research democratization, always a bad idea, never a good idea. One dog would give it less. So let's tear this to pieces. So first of all, it's unfortunate to introduce that research is not like, I understand you might say research is not like math or physics or project management, but that's very eye of the beholder. There are some people who find physics quite simple and find making a sandwich, difficult. So I think that it's hard to say that research is just so much simpler than math, physics, or project management. And especially when he introduces that, project management is so abstract and you have to learn dependencies. I don't know. I feel like we learned dependencies in kindergarten. Like you're gonna have to put on socks before shoes. You really aren't supposed to do shoes and then socks, or not wearing your underwear on the outside. So I think we did learn the basic concept of dependencies as many of us were raised. Stephanie says, I cringed at good enough research. The bar is low. I-10 says, I lost it at physics. These kinds of claims are a reason why soft science people, arts professionals are so unsure. Oh, it's not math and it's not worth it. Ralitsa says, having done both project management and research, I can't say either is easier or difficult. There are difficult and complex aspects in both roles. Right. I don't understand why people who feel like they have to put an argument out there have to say, well, this one thing isn't so difficult, or who said this was so hard? Whoa, check out these things. They're really hard. And of course, for some reason, whenever people want to trot this out, they don't quite go for Hitler. They go for like physics, and it's like, all right, fine. Everything feels easier than physics if you're not good at physics. I took physics with calculus in college, so I'm not afraid of physics. Which is easier, UX or physics? I don't know. Physics? I guess it depends if you're, where your natural talents and skills lie. If math and science is your thing, physics probably feels easier. But I don't know. You're you. So yeah, you need a really good understanding of a dependency. And that's trotted out as our argument as to why it's harder to be good at project management than at research. Yeah, Raleigh says apples to oranges. And then of course he belittles it by saying, hey, if you want to be good at research, you just need to know a few things about sociology and psychology. Just a few. I don't know, 2 things would be okay. 3 things. Just know 2 or 3 things about sociology and psychology. You've got research down. I think that this unfortunately minimizes and belittles this. There really isn't anything good I can find in what he's saying, and sure, you can certainly learn research or try to improve your research by going out into the field and trying to learn on the job. But that doesn't mean you'll be good at it. And I think that's where his argument kind of forgets to complete the arc, which is you can work on learning research, and sure, everyone can do a little research. But as we keep talking about with our good friend, the phases of proficiency model, anyone who can do a little bit of research or a little bit of, the basic, simplest project management is probably dealing in the building blocks universe. They're probably not using science and technique. They're probably not using strategy. So if you can do a little bit of research, that doesn't mean you're doing it well. And if you can do a little bit of project management, that doesn't mean you're doing it well. And so I think that what he's missing here, and I do notice it's an argument that tends to be missing from the democratized research thing, is we often act like anybody who does any research or tries any research or seeks to learn research is going to be great at it. And I know lots of not great researchers, and I know lots of newbies who started out making a lot of mistakes that would have really messed up a project if they didn't have a mentor or coach helping to set them in the right direction. Ralica says dependency management is really not the most complex part of project management. It's communication and collaboration. I would agree. Dependency management is not. I would think risk management is hard because that requires some prediction, some proactivity, some really broad thinking. I would think risk management is the hardest. So again, I really don't understand why we see so many arguments that look to minimize what we do, especially from people within our own field. I don't know what these people gain unless they think they're going to, take the lean UX path and create a book that burns down our own industry, but don't worry because you'll sell books and then you'll sell training. So, if that's what you're going for, if you don't mind selling us out so you can sell books or sell training, that could be your path. But I don't like all the people that are selling out UX and selling it to these false arguments. I think that's unfair. I think that's part of what's destroying our industry. And I would like to hold these people responsible and accountable for that. I would like everybody who is told at their job that it's okay if everybody just does a little bit of research, and we really don't need all these specialized researchers because, hey, everybody can just do a little bit of research. I want everybody who was taken off a project because a product manager was going to do their own research or engineers were going to talk to customers. I want everyone to send Greg Bernstein a nice note about how he has possibly affected their job, because it's possible. I find that people read these books and then they go, well, this guy said it in a book, so it must be true. Like he knows, right? Somebody published his book. Anybody can publish a book about anything. Yes, risk and opportunity management is about strategy, needs a lot more product and business understanding. Thank you, Ralica. So that wraps up our adventures today in Reaction Stream. Let's press this button. And thanks to everybody who joined in live or joined in at all, and or joined in later watching the video version. And thanks for sending stuff in. It's, constantly weird, and I think many of you send it in knowing what I'm going to say. So, there's that. But again, I'm getting like almost more stuff than I can handle, but we'll try to keep these under an hour. And in fact, I often get them even like while I'm talking. Okay, I don't have one in the email now, but they come fast. So let's see, what's this say? Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for hanging out. Oh, Joel says hello. Hi, Joel. We're just wrapping up. How are you? Happy Friday. Joel, I didn't hear back from that woman. Looks like she's taking the next week off. So now you know. And so does everyone watching the video later. I10 says, we should start a website that lists every single product, feature, or service that failed due to poor research. Oh man, that's all of them. Just put all of them. Just make a website and write all the things. Yeah. So again, if you want to write a book about UX or research or design or something like that, can you please try to make it sound like our work is important and that we do need specialists to do this? Because the more people write books and articles about how anybody can do this stuff. It's so easy. It's not physics. Anybody can research. The more you're killing the future. It's like we're in a bad movie where we're watching the future of UX disappear before us. And I'm going to keep fighting for it, but I really don't like how many people I have to fight. This is ridiculous. I don't understand why people who have a platform and a voice use it to hurt us. You are not raising up UX when you democratize it. You are not making people care more about design. You are teaching them that they really don't need us to do these jobs because they can do some research themselves. Darren says, hey, Joel, that's why I'm doing my UX Fail Awards. Yeah, UX fail for sure, but I think we have to call out these pseudo thought leaders and people with platforms who use it to hurt the industry. So there's that. All right, kids, is there something on my face? And if there was, why didn't you tell me an hour ago? All right, everybody, have a good weekend. Please be safe. We'll be back with lots of shows coming up throughout September. I think I've got 3 or 4. I've got 4 shows a week planned for, I think, the whole month. So come on out and join live at 6:30 p.m. Italy time. Of course, you can subscribe here on YouTube and leave some comments after the stream to help in the algorithm. Join the Slack channel. Tip jar is optional. Funds my chocolate chip habit. And also, you can see our upcoming shows at deltacx.link/events. That will take you to a cheesy Google Calendar. And then there's a couple of other links you can try here if you're curious about other ways to get in touch. And you can always drop by the deltacx.com website. So on that note, I will play us out of here. But please stay away from humans and wear 17 masks and do your best to stay healthy. Thanks and see you soon. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are